What's going on, guys? ShadowNinja here, and today I was in the hunt for a choir of one build when it comes to the Warlock class. And in that journey, I've created something I was not expecting. This Warlock build is what I call a weekend god, and it utilized Prismatic, a bunch of other stuff, including Felwinter's Helm. It's insane. Now, if you guys see my two previous build videos when it came to Warlock for Onslaught, then you guys know how much I love Felwinter's Helm. If you haven't, don't worry, we'll give you guys the breakdown of it, but yeah. This is like one of my favorite exotics in the game, especially for the Warlock class. Now, in general, I must apologize for the delay because I meant to have this out Monday, but allergies have kicked my ass. Plus, I recently just got Wukong on top of that, so... Oh my god! What is this thing? It's like a giant midget, but with a big head. Oh, you heard me say that, didn't you? Oh my god. Okay. I apologize. Holy okay. Ow. Yeah, my bad. That game's actually pretty damn fun. But don't worry, we got stuff planned. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button and bell to notify for when I do drop more content. We have some stuff with Destiny. We got a new grenade launcher to talk about. We have other potential builds when it comes to hunters and things like that in the works. But as per usual, when it comes to this build, there will be a dim link in the description and in the pinned comments you guys can easily pull from and use. But with that being said, let's jump in and talk about the build. So first up on the list, Prismatic is going to be the main subclass of choice here, and the main exotic primary is not going to be Choir of One for what I'm going to be showing you, but as you guys can see with the build, you can easily utilize Choir of One. Now, important to mention, Choir of One is a little bit on the bug side, so it is overperforming from what Bungie has said, but don't worry, it will be overperforming in all capacities until episode 2, which is Revenant. So enjoy it for the next 30 something days, I guess you could say. But the main two auto rifles we're going to be talking about is Monte Carlo, an exotic primary auto rifle. It's kinetic damage, and the Kvostov kinetic damage auto rifle. These two are my number one picks. Now, Monte Carlo a little bit more for some of the perks and melee regeneration. We'll throw Choir of One here on screen so you guys can see that these are all the different primary options you guys can have. Just important to mention that Choir of One is a special ammo. Now, when it comes to Monte Carlo, there is a really important aspect to it, and it's the Monte Carlo method exotic trait to it. Dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully charge your melee ability with each kill. With the catalyst, you're able to use the Markov chain 5 stacks into a bayonet melee hit, which is pretty damn fun. Unfortunately, it doesn't stack in terms of triggering or proccing Felwinter's Helm, but it is a fun, great little catalyst. Again, we're really utilizing this for the melee regeneration and Makarov chain. This weapon gains increased damage from melee kills and kills with this weapon. Melee kills grant ammo for this weapon on top of that. That latter half is not really relevant anymore. I wish Bungie gave it a different perk. But yeah, that is the main primary we are using. Kvostov, I've talked about this. It's still one of the best exotic primaries in the game. The ricochet rounds when it comes to building Transcendence is so good, and that's kind of why when it comes to primaries, we're really leaning towards Monte Carlo and Kvostov. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about Kvostov. We know it. It is really damn good. Felwinter's Helm. Let's throw it up here on screen and let's talk about it. Now, the main perk, I have talked about this before, Warlord's End, and power melee final blows creates a burst of energy that weakens nearby targets. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the radius of the burst and the length of the weakening effect. It's important to mention that this weakening effect is on the tier 2 side of things, which is a 30% weaken. This is online with tractor cannon, tether from the hunters. It is that serious of a weaken effect. And in the case of Prismatic, this pairs great with the incinerator snap melee that you'll be seeing in the builds. But yeah, this is one of my favorite exotics in the game, and thankfully Prismatic made it even better for me. But yeah, with that being said, let's jump in and talk about the build. Alright guys, so hope you guys are ready, but when it comes to this Build, or the subclass. Let's jump right in with the Prismatic. Our aspects of choice will be Feed the Void, basically defeating a target with any ability to activate Devour. Your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. Devour is still one of my favorite subclass verbiages in the game. It is so easy to proc with what we're going for here, and then we're using the new solar aspect Helion. Activate your class ability to summon a Scorch Mortar that lobs flaming projectiles at distance targets. Targets damaged by mortar are scorched, and this is really important when it comes to what we're doing with some of the class item stuff you can have. The abilities, we have Vortex Grenade, one of my favorite in the game, and you're seeing with one of the fragments we get to utilize Weaken, which is a tier 1. I think it's a 20% Weaken, which is very nice on command. Incendiary Snap, this is incredible. Scorches, ignitions, but snap your fingers to create a fan of burning sparks that explode and scorch targets. This pairs with Felwinter's Helm. And what I mean pairs is if you would cause an ignition that kills something with this, it counts towards that weaken effect from Felwinter's Helm here on screen. I am letting this burn out in terms of the ignition. And once this target burns, you guys see that it does weaken and cause this Felwinter's Helm effect. That is incredible. I love that. And then when it comes to our super Song of Flame, unfortunately the melees here and the ability stuff here does not pair in terms of what we're doing with the aspects, so don't expect Felwinter's Helm to be there. Actually, it may pair with some of the Devour stuff, but at the same time I don't think so. But in general, doesn't really matter. This is an incredible super that is one of the best in the game, especially with orb generation and things like that. It is absurd and really good. Our fragments, pretty simple here. Facet of Hope when you have an element of both. Your class ability regenerates more quickly. We want this for our well and our solar mortars. We have Facet of Balance, rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. We're doing so much light damage with this stuff, so we're getting our melees back even faster. And then rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. There is an unfortunate part of this build when it comes to our Transcendence buildup we'll talk about, but that's not really important now. This is going to really help with that melee energy, which is just cracked at this point. Facet of Purpose, picking up Orb of Power, grants either Amplified, Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Melt, or Overshield based on the damage type of your super. We have Song of Flame, Solar. We're getting Restoration, we're getting Devour, and then with the Radiant Orbs in the Artifact mod, we're getting Radiant. Those are some of the 3 best subclass verbiages in the game, and we're getting that all together in this build. It is absurd. And then when it comes to Facet of Grace, defeating targets with a kinetic damage grants you bonus transcendent energy. Defeating targets with your super grants you and nearby allies bonus transcendence energy. Really good. Love this fragment. And then Facet of Domination, your void grenades weaken targets. Again, this is a 20% weaken, and your arc grenades jolts targets. The weaken part makes this so spammy, so damn good, and I love it. Now, really important to mention here before we go anywhere, breaking down the artifact and then the mods. You guys are going to probably notice that I don't have any darkness verbiage subclass stuff when it comes to the abilities and things like that. So we're not really building that darkness transcendence faster. So that's why I'm going to mention here. Monte Carlo is pretty slow at that. Switching off to Kvalstov with the ricochets builds that up insanely fast. But at the same time, you guys can use a power weapon. And if you guys are using Choir of One, you guys can put a Lost Signal up here. That is a stasis damage, which is darkness. Again, keep in mind some of that special ammo economy stuff, but altogether, there's ways around it to build your loadout to get around that. Just notice that this is the most optimal, what you're seeing here on screen when it comes to building that transcendence, maximizing it, triggering it, using it all the time. This is the most optimal at doing that. When it comes to our mods, it is really awesome to see here, but we have hands-on, so we generate our super faster kinetic siphons for orb generation. We really want to get cracked out here. For our gauntlets, we have Font of Vigor. As you guys saw my stats, this is a plus 30 when I have an armor charge. My strength isn't up there. And then we have heavy-handed for some of that orb generation with our snap. For our chest, we have 2 harmonic reserves and a melee damage resistance. We're getting in there and things like that. Again, you could probably throw on some other stuff here if you prefer any other mods. When it comes to our legs, we have 2, or at least we have an invigoration and an innervation. And then we have a strand weapon surge for our power weapon. God forbid I pull that for DPS, but at the same time with the weekends and the snaps and the grenades, I'm not really using my power weapon. There is some decent DPS here in most content. And then we have time dilation, bomber, and font of restoration, even though that may be a little bit overkill with our orbs. Still a great tack on when it comes to our restoration and things like that. Here on screen is going to be our artifact mod. Now keep this in mind if you guys are using Choir of One when it comes to expanding Abyss and Void Hemorrhage. This is a little bit on the better side, but at the same time, Shield Crush. So when you're amplified or radiant, in this case, we're going to get increased damage to our grenade and it recharges faster, which is already applying a weaken. As you guys can imagine, Shield Crush here is really good for what we're going for. Then we have Transference, gain increased grenade and melee damage while Transcendent, and Weapon Final Blows while Transcendent, refund light and dark energy after Transcendent ends. This is really good. Radiant Orbs is something you should have on if you guys have Prismatic on. You pick up Overpower, you get Radiant. This is a no-brainer. Solar Fulmination. Your ignitions do increased damage and an increased radius. This pairs great with our melee ability, which pairs great with the Felwinter's Helm buff. And then on top of that, ignitions are just really cracked out. Goes great with our super in this case. We are using the auto-loading stuff, so you can continuously shoot your Monte Carlo, Kvostov, even Choir of One, depending on what firing mode that is in. We have Sustained Fire still keeping this on. It gives you, stacking damage resistance. I don't think it pairs great with Resilience, with even more testing, but at the same time, just throw it on there. Overload for auto rifles, because that's going to be our main weapon. Makes sense, especially if we're jumping in some of that content that requires champions. But those are the main ones that we're using that really stand out and enhance this build even more. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're going for when it comes to this build. It is really damn good. Recommend you guys pull the dim link and use it for yourself. But with that being said, let's jump out and give you guys my closing thoughts. So this build is incredibly fun and I really love it. I love it so much. Again, with the auto rifles of choice, it was meant to be a Choir of One focused build video, but I just couldn't not share Monte Carlo or Kvostov or Choir of One as being options. Choir of One is a great auto rifle, but if you want some long-term build crafting, this is definitely going to survive the test of time when it comes to Revenant and things like that. Again, some artifact mods may change and things like that, but this is an incredible Warlock build, and it makes me a little bit jealous as a Titan main that this is available for you Warlocks to utilize. But yeah, with that being said, let me know your guys' thoughts on this build and things like that. Loadout's a little bit flexible, but overall, the Devour, the Weekend, the stuff like that is insane. And this is one of my favorite builds I have done and one of my favorite builds right now to use in all of Destiny. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, found this video informative, be sure to toss the video a like, helps with the video a ton. And for more content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell to be notified for when I do drop more content. But yeah, hope you guys have a good one. ShadowNinja here, and I'm out.